Now, to be honest, over the past couple of weeks, I've been giving out a lot of information to show you guys how to get into universities in the United States. All right. So pretty much, I gave you a template. I gave you an example of how to choose the college for you or the university for you, how to choose a neighborhood you want to live, how to choose, how to find out what the size of the school is and things like that, whatever. Now, pretty much now, it's up to you now to figure out which direction you want to go with this. Because what I can do, I can provide you with the information, but I can't make you, do what I tell you to do. However, I know what works, and this is my expertise, so this is what I put out there. So, I strongly, strongly, strongly recommend. I mention this every single video. The final application date that they have there, you want to make sure that your information is in there at least a few weeks or at least a few months prior to that. And the reason why I say that is that international admissions, they get kind of funny sometimes. And, sometimes you don't know how many students they want to accept per year as opposed to how many local students they want to accept. So, and I say this especially like when you're dealing like with the state schools where they have a lot of applications coming in. So you want to make sure that you're getting you're getting this information in first. I always say the early bird gets the worm. So what that means is that the earlier you are to the party, you're going to get to the food and the punch first. So with us being in August now, basically, I think that it's imperative for us to have realistic goals. I'm talking specifically to my seniors right now because some of my seniors right now, they're sitting watching this video. It's August. They haven't taken the TOEFL exam. They don't have a passport. They haven't looked into visa issues, but they're talking about they're going to school in America. Their father has a friend or my mama has a friend. And, we simply can't live like that. I think for the international students that actually do the best are the ones that do their planning way before the deadlines and way before somebody tells them that time's up. So if you go through that criteria and you find those 15 schools you list down, now you're noticing, okay, fine. Judging from what I have and from what I do on my grades and all this other stuff, I know that I can get into at least, 50% of those schools. So let's think now. You have 15 schools, right? You apply maybe 3 or 4 schools that might be, you're not sure if you can get in. Then you have another 5 schools that you meet the criteria. And then you have what you call the safety schools, judged based on your grades and whatnot. So if you're a 4.0 student and you apply to a school that takes people with a 2.0 and up, we call that a safety school. You always want to make sure you have safety schools because, like we said, if you apply late or other people come, there's only a certain amount of slots for you to be there to go to school. So you definitely want to make sure that you have that list done. At least by the beginning of school, you have that list done. By September, if it hasn't been done yet, please, let's get this stuff in. A word of advice for early admissions. Early admissions is the same thing. You get your early admission stuff in early so you can maybe the school of your dreams calls you, and now you can make a choice. All right. I was looking at another vlogger actually who mentioned that really early admission can kind of beat out the competition for regular admission. And he made a very valid point. I had some of my kids that did early admission into a couple of colleges, and when they went to the interview, they might have went to the interview in September, and they made them an offer by October. Now, if they'd have went into the sea of regular admission students, they might not have gotten, accepted. Or they might not have gotten the money they offered. So don't sleep on early admission. Early admission is kind of a whole different. It's a whole different ball game there because you're not competing with the students that are going to be applying later. All right. So the pool's a little bit smaller and you actually can have more choices, especially if you're a strong student. So let's say, for example, Princeton's your first choice. Harvard, Princeton, and Yale are on top of you. Princeton offers you first choice. All right, you go and take Princeton because Princeton where you want to go. But then Yale also says, listen, if you want to do early admission, you could do us as well. Now you have a bit of dilemma, but this is what we call a good problem. Now, sometimes what happens is that some people will pick an early admission school and they really don't want to go there, but they are afraid they're not going to get into other schools. So it's kind of like how people do when they go gambling. They just go ahead and roll the dice, and then they say, okay, I'm going to stop here. Months later, the school of their dreams decides they want to accept her. Now, what happens if you break your contract, your early admission contract? Then the other schools really aren't going to want to look at you, because basically once you do early admission, that means that they can't come back and, you can't come back and say, oh, I want to change schools without any serious penalties. So let's look at that for a second. You have your top 5 schools that you want to get into. You're not sure you're going to get into. One to 2 of them accept you and say you can get an early admission. Now you have the other schools underneath that, that you're sure you can get into, and the schools you think you could probably have a strong chance of getting into. So if two of your top 5 schools say, hey, listen, we're offering you early admission, I would jump on it. All right. Another thing is, when they start talking early admission, the next question I go to is, where's the money? All right. And I can tell you honestly, for my own kids, I've had none of my kids go into early admission where they didn't get at least a full ride. All right. And I've had three kids go into early admission into universities. And the minute they said early admission, I'm like, okay, what's the money looking like? Because we're taking all these other schools off the table, which means that you better have a good package for us. And that's how I dealt with them straight up. So if you say, okay, we want to offer early admission, all right, let's look at this financial aid package, because I'm trying to come out of school without in debt. I want my kids to come out of school not in debt. So when you start talking about early admission, you could almost guarantee some money's coming behind it. And you have to know where to find the money. Internationalstudent.com and others. I come across a lot of scholarships just Googling online, trying to find different things. So there is money out there for you guys, and there's plenty of money out there for international students. A lot of international students think that there is no money. They don't know what to do, yada, 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 but there is money out there for them. All right. So that's our wrap up pretty much for Monday. And like I said, if you haven't applied to all the schools that you want to apply to, it's August. You still have a little time, but let's try to get these applications in long before the deadline, because remember, as an international student, you're dealing with a host of other issues. You're dealing with issues with getting your visas and things like that. So it's going to be more work than somebody, for me, for example, or one of my kids that lives 10 minutes from university. They can walk their own lunch break and take care of what they got to take care of. Where you're on the other side of the water, and it depends on how your country's infrastructure is set up. Maybe you only have internet and the daytime, nighttime shut off, whatever your situation is. But you're going to have more obstacles coming from a foreign country. All right. Now, if you put the work in and do things early and you get all these tasks done early, the schools actually appreciate you for going by the book and getting things in early. And international students are they're pretty welcome on most campuses. All right. That brings a bit more flair to the American students. They get to see and be around other people from different cultures, and it's a good thing. All right, so last but not least, comment, like, subscribe, questions, comments, short speeches, feel free to leave them on the bottom. And, and we're going to start rolling now. Like, we start talking like September, October, the rest of the months, we're going to start rolling. And I'm going to start rolling out a lot more schools, a lot more scholarship information. Also, we're going to try to throw we're also going to try to throw on some seminars. Speaking of seminars, within the next month or two, we're looking at where I'm going to be traveling to do some of our live sessions. Some of our live sessions are a bit more of a premium sessions, and you can acquire within if you're thinking about maybe going to some of them. I'm actually going to be jumping around the Middle East for a little bit, probably going to run through to UAE, try to run through Oman, try to run through Saudi Arabia, then maybe try to bounce over to Asia and hit a couple other countries from here and there, and then maybe swing to the Philippines and Malaysia, because I want to meet you guys, because you guys are family. So stay tuned for that. Apologize for the noise. Sometimes we had a fan moving and things like that, so it gets a little noisy in here sometimes. But appreciate you guys. We'll see you tomorrow, and keep on searching.